Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we are talking directly to all of you future flight instructors out there. This is a universally critical topic for your new career. We're going to focus entirely on the Federal Aviation Administration's Task C, which is all about the teaching process. Now look, you already know how to fly. You've totally mastered the physical controls, you know the regulations inside and out, and you understand the airspace. But today, we're shifting gears. This isn't about teaching you how to fly. This is a presentation specifically for those of you preparing to become instructors. We're focusing on how you take all of that hard-earned knowledge in your head and somehow transfer it into the mind and the muscle memory of a brand new student pilot. You can think of this explainer as your pedagogical flight plan. All right, let's dive right into this and get you prepared for that right seat.
So you might be wondering, how exactly is flying an aircraft different from teaching someone else how to do it? Well, it's an absolutely crucial question. Being an expert, high-hour pilot does not automatically make you an effective instructor. Not even close. You see, flying an aircraft is all about your own situational awareness, your own reflexes, and your own aeronautical decision-making. But teaching someone else how to fly? That is an entirely different discipline. It requires a specific structure, a good bit of psychology, and very specific delivery methods to ensure your student doesn't just, memorize some facts to pass the test, but actually retains and applies those facts safely up in the air. You really need a highly structured approach if you want to transform a complete novice into a safe, competent aviator.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering lesson organization, lecture methods, guided discussion, the demonstration performance method, and finally, group learning and computer-based training.
Let's kick things off with Phase 1, lesson preparation and logical organization.
Think about it this way. Just as you would literally never take off without a thorough pre-flight briefing and double-checking the weather, you must never walk into a classroom or a cockpit to teach without your material logically organized into a solid lesson plan. Every great lesson starts with a really strong introduction, and that intro has 3 vital steps. First up is attention. You've got to grab them. You need to focus the student's mind right on the lesson. Maybe you tell a relevant aviation story or ask a really provocative question. Second is motivation. You have to give your students specific, tangible reasons why this lesson actually matters. Like, you might explain that mastering a maneuver like slow flight is absolutely essential for safe approaches and landings later on. And finally, overview. Just tell them exactly what's going to be covered so they have a clear mental roadmap for the day.
Okay, so once you've properly introduced the lesson, you move right into the development phase. This is where you have to logically sequence the material so your student can build their understanding block by block. You've got a few options here. You can go chronologically, like teaching the history of radio navigation from past to present. Or you can go simple to complex. A great example of this is explaining jet thrust by starting with a simple toy balloon letting out air and then scaling that concept way up to the complexities of a gas turbine engine. You can also move from the known to the unknown. Say they already grasp how a vacuum-driven heading indicator works, well, you use that known concept to introduce the unknown, like a radiomagnetic indicator. Or finally, you can sequence from most frequently used to least frequently used. That means teaching basic map reading and GPS first before you even touch on those really rare navigation edge cases.
Moving on to Phase 2, the lecture method.
Now, the lecture is easily the most widely used presentation tool in education, for sure. It is absolutely the best method out there for conveying a general understanding of a totally new subject or for summarizing broad ideas. But we need to distinguish between 2 main types. A formal lecture is used primarily to inform students, and it involves little to no verbal participation from them. It's mostly a one-way street, typically used for introducing entirely new subject matter to really large audiences. On the flip side, we have the informal lecture. This one actively invites student participation and questioning. And let me tell you, aviation instructors heavily favor this informal style. Why? Because it gives you immediate feedback. You can literally read their facial expressions, see how furiously they're taking notes, and accurately gauge their actual interest and comprehension in real time. But you can't just wing a lecture. Delivering a successful one requires a really precise 4-step preparation process. First, you have to establish your objectives and your desired outcomes. Second, thoroughly research your subject. Third, logically organize your material. And fourth, plan out productive classroom activities. And when you're actually up there delivering it, remember that language is your primary tool. Keep it simple. Always use standard English. And when you do have to introduce technical terms, which, let's face it, happens all the time in aviation, define them incredibly clearly so there is absolutely zero doubt in your student's mind. You have to be specific. Actually, instead of saying something vague like a mechanical defect, say a leak in the fuel line. In aviation, clarity isn't just a nice to have, clarity is literally safety. Of course, understanding when to actually use a lecture and when to avoid it entirely is key. The advantages are pretty clear. It's an incredibly easy and efficient way to instruct a large group. It allows you to present a ton of difficult information in a very short amount of time. However, the disadvantages are definitely significant. It is way too easy to present more information than a student pilot can actually absorb in one sitting. Plus, it can be really difficult to hold everyone's attention for that long. But most importantly, lecturing provides you with absolutely no accurate means of checking a student's progress and their actual understanding of the material.
That brings us to Phase 3, the guided discussion method.
So, how do we combat those drawbacks of just lecturing at people? We use guided discussions. You're going to see this frequently during your pre-flight and post-flight briefings. Now, this method relies heavily on the student already possessing some baseline knowledge, maybe from a reading assignment, which allows you, the instructor, to discover exactly what they know through skillful questioning. Let's break down the anatomy of a perfect question. It must have a specific purpose and be completely clear in meaning. It absolutely must contain only a single idea, otherwise you're just going to confuse the student. It should stimulate critical thought, require a definite answer, and relate directly back to information you've previously covered. You are essentially opening up an area for discussion and then using clever follow-up questions to steer the student right toward your learning goal.
As an instructor, you're going to want to keep a few specific types of questions in your toolkit. Overhead questions are thrown out to the entire group just to see who bites. Rhetorical questions are great to stimulate thought, even though you aren't expecting an out-loud answer. Direct questions, those target a specific individual student. Then you have reverse questions, where you bounce a student's own query right back to them to make them think through the solution themselves. And finally, relay questions, where you bounce one student's question over to a totally different student to answer. Using these types of questions strategically is amazing for encouraging critical thinking skills, which, as we know, are the absolute bedrock of aeronautical decision-making. Your specific flow as an instructor during these discussions is going to make or break its success. You always start with an introduction that grabs their attention and gives an overview of the key points. Then comes the actual discussion. This is where you start asking those easy-to-understand questions. And here's a massive tip. Wait patiently for the answer. It might feel like an awkward silence, but the more difficult the question, the more time you must give them to mentally process it. Listen to their experiences and constantly push them by asking why and how. Finally, you wrap up with the conclusion. This is where you pull it all together. You tie the various points up and clearly show the relationship between the textbook facts you discussed and their practical application. For example, you make absolutely sure they understand how the dry textbook definition of density altitude is actually going to affect their takeoff roll on the runway today. Next up is Phase 4, the demonstration performance method.
When it comes to teaching the actual physical flying skills in the cockpit, demonstration performance is going to be your bread and butter. It is entirely founded on the universal principle that people learn best by actually doing. This requires a very strict 5-phase sequence: explanation, demonstration, student performance, instructor supervision, and evaluation. During the explanation phase, you are making the objectives crystal clear. During your demonstration, you physically show them the action in the cockpit. Now, here is an absolutely critical tip for you. If your demonstration deviates from your explanation due to some unexpected circumstance, like say a sudden wind gust bumps your altitude, you have to explain that deviation to the student immediately. Do not wait. If you don't say anything, they might internalize that mistake as the correct technique.
Right after you demonstrate, we move into the student performance phase. The flow here is highly practical. The student has to do, they act, they practice, and through that physical, hands-on repetition, they learn. And while they are busy practicing, what are you doing? You are providing instructor supervision. You are sitting right there next to them in the right seat, actively correcting and coaching everything they do. Finally, you move to the evaluation phase. This is where you judge the student's performance against the established standard and objectively measure their ultimate achievement before you even think about moving on to the next maneuver.
Finally, let's look at Phase 5, group learning and CBT.
So, moving beyond that one-on-one cockpit time, modern instructors use some great pedagogical tools to maximize active learning. Cooperative or group learning involves organizing your students into small groups, and the research on this is pretty clear. It leads to higher test scores, higher self-esteem, and really improves social skills among students. But it requires strict controls from you to actually work. You need to keep the group small, give crystal clear instructions, and provide sufficient time. Crucially, there has to be individual accountability. You can't let anyone just hide in the background while others do the work. And of course, you pair that with recognition and rewards when the group succeeds.
The other massive modern tool at your disposal is computer-based training, or CBT. This simply means coupling a personal computer with multimedia software to create a highly interactive training device. It is absolutely incredible for both initial and recurrent training, particularly when you're dealing with really complex aircraft systems. The biggest advantage of CBT is that students get to progress at a rate that is comfortable for them. They can access the material at their own convenience. It's literally perfect for FAA knowledge test preparation. Modern CBT includes high interactivity, complex situation simulations, and deeply engaging scenarios that really prepare the student's mind before the engine ever starts.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to anchor you to this exact completion standard right here, because this is the ultimate goal of all your instructor training. Fulfilling the rigorous practical test standards, or PTS, means that you have a complete, robust understanding of the teaching behaviors required of you, and you deeply understand the psychological principles of learning that are going to affect your students' behavior. You aren't just a pilot anymore, folks. You're an educator, and you are literally shaping the future of aviation.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Mastering the controls of an aircraft, that was your first great challenge. Mastering the mind of your student, that is your next one. By diligently applying logical lesson organization, engaging in formal lectures, targeted guided discussions, and the hands-on demonstration performance method, you are going to ensure the safety and the success of the next generation of aviators. So the question is, are you ready to take that right seat and truly transform a student into a pilot? Think about how you're going to apply this comprehensive toolkit in your very next training session. Keep learning, keep preparing, and fly safe out there.